Hey guys, Joel's back with another reasoning session. Today I'm going to be talking about Shiganoth, or the nature of what kind of music some of these prophetic oracles actually followed.
Come now and let us reason together. Come now, we can talk it over.
So if you like these videos, give it a thumbs up and subscribe for more like content. You can also follow me on Rumble or on Zappit. The links are down in the description. The thing is that YouTube is doing some crazy things with shadow banning and dropping subscribers. I don't know what's going on, but sources saying that this message is still coming through and it will find the people who are ready to receive it on the platforms that are willing to promote it. But with that out of the way, I'm going to jump straight into it. One of the places where this word actually appears is in the oracles of Ħabaquq. At the beginning of the 3rd chapter, it says, a tefillah, or prayer of Ħabaquq, the prophet, upon Shiganoth. Now, when we're reading that in the English translations, we wonder, is that a place name? Is that just some word we don't understand anymore? But actually, in translation, the term Shiganoth actually means wild, enthusiastic, and triumphant music. It's a type of song because a lot of prophecies and these oracles were done over rhythm and music. And it was kind of like freestyling, They would have the beat and then they would get into a trance and then they would just kind of go ba-da, 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 ba-da. And then they would oracle these words from source, literally divine channelings, to guide the nation, to guide the kingdoms, to guide the people. And that was how a lot of these came through. Now the word Shiganoth actually comes from the Hebrew root shagah, which means to go astray, or to stray from, or to wander. It also means to swerve, as when you're drunk. Technically, this term is applied in use for aberrations or irregularities. In the musical or theatrical sense, this can refer to a dithyramb or a rambling. What's a dithyramb? Well, that's an ancient Greek form of music that was literally a wild choral hymn, usually dedicated to Dionysus, or as we would understand it, in the Bacchanalian context, where it's a wild, ecstatic, orgiastic rite. So in the Hebrew context, this literally means like a erratic rhythm, as in to reel in a wild or passionate song. And when you're reading this 3rd chapter of Ħabaquq, you can see that this oracle doesn't follow a metered sense. Some of the verses are long, some of them are short, some of them have breaks in the middle, and they have selahs, or interludes of music in the middle of verses. It really follows an ecstatic rhythm, and all of this was set to music. And I want to give examples from the book of Shmu'el when Saul is first anointed king over Israel. It's a very interesting example. I will be delving deeper into this very story in some future episode because it also ties in with more of what I want to talk about. But this is just the nature of how the prophets, or the Nabi'im, actually oracled their messages. Now, a bit of backstory on this passage. Saul he's just a young lad, and his father's donkeys are lost, and he's going to look for them. So he goes to Shmu'el, or Samuel, and he says, if anybody knows where these donkeys are, it's this local shaman. So he goes to Shmu'el and he says, can you help me find the donkeys? But Shmu'el lays a trip on Saul, and I'm just going to read straight from the text from chapter 10. Then Shmu'el took a vial of oil and poured it upon his head and kissed him and said, is it not because Yahweh has anointed you to be captain over his inheritance? And he says that after you leave me, this is what you will find. And he tells him a couple different people that he will find. The first ones will tell him that your father's donkeys are found. Then you'll go on and you'll find 3 men, one carrying 3 young goats, another carrying 3 loaves of bread, and another carrying a bottle of wine. They will salute you and give you 2 loaves of bread. And then after that, he says, when you come to the city, you will meet a company of prophets. The same Hebrew term is used, Nabi'im, coming down from the high place with a psaltery and a tabret and a pipe and a harp before them. These are all musical instruments. And they shall prophesy. That Hebrew word prophesy is the word nabi, which literally means to rant or to rave ecstatically, to behave in a trance or a wild ecstatic manner. And the Spirit of Yahweh will come upon you, and you shall prophesy with them, and shall be turned into another man. Now we can imagine the whole role of set and setting, Here's Saul not knowing what's going on, and Shmuel pours this concoction on him and says, after a while you're going to feel the Spirit of Yahweh come upon you, and you're going to be transformed and given into this oracular trance. And then it goes on to say that when they came to the hill, behold, a company of prophets met him, and the spirit of Elohim came upon him, and he prophesied among them. Literally, he nabid among them. And it came to pass, when all that knew him before that saw that, behold, he prophesied among the prophets. Then the people said one to another, what is this that is come unto the son of Kish? Is Saul also among the prophets? And that literally became a saying in ancient Israel. But then it's funny, because when this whole trip wears off of Saul, the next morning it says, when they sought him, he couldn't be found. Therefore they inquired of Yahweh further, and Yahweh answered, behold, he has hid himself among the stuff, or among the baggage. And they ran and fetched him thence. And when he stood among the people, he was higher than any of the people from his shoulders upward. So you can see that, he was hiding among the baggage, because he's like, wait a minute, I can't do this. I can't be this new person. I can't be the king over all these people. But it was literally this spirit that was in the oil, in the anointing, that allowed these people from the time of Moses anointing the priests through the kings and all the prophets being anointed and being this vessel, literally the Hebrew word Mashiach, the anointed one. In the Greek that's translated Christos, which also means the same thing, anointed with oil. And this is where their real power lay, by the physical manifestation of what brought about this supernatural expression in their bodies. And this isn't the only example. Throughout the writings of Shmuel, it says that Saul prophesied, or he ranted and raved. In my last video, I even said how he raved against David when an evil spirit of Yahweh came upon him, and he literally acted like he had lost his mind, as if he was beside himself, or as if he was possessed by an evil entity. And he even threw the javelin at David to kill him. And he did the same to his own son when he tried to defend David. And another example, when Saul was looking for David in order to kill him, it says, and Saul sent messengers to take David. And when they saw the company of prophets prophesying, and Shmuel standing as appointed over them, the spirit of Elohim was upon the messengers of Saul, and they also prophesied. And it goes on to say about Saul, and he stripped off his clothes also, and prophesied before Shmuel in like manner, and lay down naked all that day and all that night. Wherefore they say, is Saul also among the prophets? So this is the nature of how Source actually brings through some of these oracles. They come through ecstatically. They come through divine trance. And it's all in this power that's embodied in the ancient rite of the Hebrew anointing oil. That is literally where this power comes through. And in our modern time, we get it through a supernatural sense, but it still manifests in this archaic recipe, which is a metaphor when you understand it to a higher dimension of how to utilize this very same power. So I just wanted to share that in this video. I'll be getting even deeper into this whole subject with prophecies and the anointing, and even the recipe for this anointing oil in the ancient Israelite tradition. But I just wanted to say, Source has a way for all of us to learn these deeper hidden things that are right in the text that churches don't talk about, that many of the modern day churches kind of gloss over, and they just give you a watered down message, and they don't even delve deep into the nature of what was going on in the ancient world and how we can tap into it in our own modern day. And in our own modern day, of course, that's embodied in the Christ, in the Christos, in the transcendent Jesus of Nazareth. Without that power, we're still relying on ancient recipes and these old rituals. But in that, we actually tap into the supernatural dimension of this whole fractal revelation, and we can actually embody that power in our own lives and manifest that out into the world around us. So tap in with Christ and allow his power to flow through you and manifest the kingdom of heaven in this earth. So I love you guys. I'll check you in the next reasoning sesh. Joel signing out once again. Agape, Salaam, Namaste, Shalom.